So, all right, we'll start with the first session with the theme of South Asia and the world. And I would request Professor Sangeeta Tapliyal to chair the session. And all the speakers, Professor Arvind Kumar, Dr. Sanjay Pandey, and Professor Suran Singh.
Hello everyone. This session will be focusing on South Asia and the world. And you can see our speakers here speaking on very interesting areas, which have interconnections and linkages with South Asia. The speakers here have 20 minutes each, and they can extend it up to 25 only, and so that we have more time for discussion and question-answer session. So I invite Professor Arvind Kumar, who would be speaking on US and South Asia.
Thank you, Chair. My dear students, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of the themes, as Professor Nalpat said, very complex to understand what policy, which really has been working in South Asia in the current context. It's very difficult to infer. Basically, lots of challenges, lots of complexities have arisen over the years. But let me start by making few statements about the theme itself, United States and South Asia, because it's a very broad theme, and one has to really get back to what really happened, especially in the last 6.5 decades, and what were the major ramifications for the US policy in South Asia. So I will touch upon certain area and try to really discern the trend and then infer some of the major things about this. If one sees the overall policy-making system in the United States, especially dealing with South Asia, to a larger extent, one can reach to the conclusion that there was a continuity, in the sense there was no breakup or there was no major change in terms of their approaches towards South Asia, especially until very recently, and those areas are very important. At the same time, seeing the trend of the US policy towards South Asia, one can also see that South Asia, relatively and to a greater extent, was always an area of marginalization. So it was always marginalized from the international relation perspective. And US policy towards South Asia was always to see how best it can serve its interest by making Pakistan as an important ally. And that is how those things have now become irrelevant in the current context, because again that is open for debate and discussion, especially after the killing of Osama bin Laden, that how this alliance will work in the future. And especially in the last more than a decade, the United States has confronted with a number of challenges in South Asia, especially with regard to its policies. So by and large, the current discourse is that the United States has almost become a victim of its own policies, especially in dealing with South Asia. Why I say that? Because it's very difficult to comprehend about the US policy in the current context, and obviously over the years, because their assessment on Pakistan's intent and their fundamental goal, that really has been found to be less than satisfactory. So that part again, one has to understand that what really has gone wrong with the US policy. And especially it is being discussed at greater length, because all these years one has seen that the US policy has always been Pak-centric. When we talk about US policy towards South Asia, one has to see that most of the time US really has been trying to evolve a policy towards Pakistan and try to equate other countries in South Asia at that level. Things have changed, that I will come later, how the things have been changing, but it's very gradual change, very slow change. South Asia's importance as a geopolitical region, that has increased, especially in the last 1 decade. Until recently, South Asia really didn't occupy much of central position in international affairs. And one can see why I'm saying that the position or the overall influence, especially the influence of South Asia, has been increasingly important now. One can see that how South Asia has been expanding its engagement with some of the major powers like European Union, the United States, Japan, China, and Russia. And it was reflected as some of the points were made, that how now you see the larger observer status given to the countries are mostly in the Asia Pacific. You see, China has become the observer, Japan has become the observer, South Korea is the observer. and Russia is the observer. So I am saying that how South Asia as a region is expanding its horizon in terms of seeing that it has certain influence. In the overall understanding about this region itself, one can really see that India has emerged as an important factor. So on the one hand, the US most of the years devoted its time in evolving a policy towards Pakistan. The policy was Pak-centric. They were not, until recently, they were not having a policy which can really independently look towards India, and that really is still yet to evolve. When I say yet to evolve, it's in the process of evolving. And in that context, India's emergence as a rising power in South Asia, which is now being recognized by the United States, that has really led to certain change in the strategic thinking of the United States. The major areas over the years on which the US policies largely have impacted South Asia, I categorize into 5-6 areas. The first one is international terrorism. The second is how they have been dealing with Islamic radicalism. And third is that how they have been dealing with these weapons of mass destruction. And fourth is very equally important, that how they have been dealing with their important mantras like non-proliferation. Then they basically have been trying to see how best they can deal with the current crisis which Pakistan has been confronting with. The larger part where Afghanistan has emerged as the theater of war and Pakistan basically has emerged as the epicenter of terrorism, these two larger factors have really become an irritant in terms of evolving certain definite policy towards South Asia. Because these two are very important in the current context. So on the political front, the major issues which really has been seen as a major area of concern is to deal with this terrorism issue and how best they can evolve certain counter-terrorism practices, how best they can enhance their counter-terrorism effort by having certain understanding with a country like India, and that really has been into how best they can share the intelligence information and all. So that is really changing, but it is a very slow change. South Asia, to a larger extent, also is viewed as a region, geopolitical region, and which is very much relevant in the current context when one assesses the US policy towards South Asia and how those policies are confronting certain newer challenges. And it is happening because of the overall changes in the nature of the region itself. And how one of the rising power, where the debate is now centered on the center of gravity, where the center of gravity is shifting from west to east, and the larger countries in Asia, that is China and India, these two countries really are going to be the center of power in the foreseeable future. So the Asia's regional balance of power, that again is one of the factors to see, to really analyze, and the questions which really keep coming, especially from this part of the world, that is on global warming. So some of the policy changes which one might really see in the foreseeable future would be in the field of how US would like to accommodate certain interests of India and China in their overall foreign policy making. So there is no doubt South Asia is at the crossroad of a rising Asia and has been attempting to make itself geopolitically relevant and significant. And that is only happening because lots of things have happened that it is highly unstable in the world. The region itself is highly unstable. And few of the speakers spoke in the morning that how the lots of common challenges which each of the nation state in South Asia, they have been confronting with. So that part again, how to make South Asia very much relevant and significant geopolitically. So that is why it's at the crossroad of a rising Asia. Since the late 90s, an attempt has been made by the US to understand South Asia as a geopolitical region. And until then, the understanding was so limited because they were dealing only with their closest ally in terms of enhancing their interest in the region. So now what they have been doing, that they have been devoting, the US has been devoting a considerable amount of their political clout and also their diplomatic maneuvering to see how best they can engage with South Asia. And that has really seen a new paradigm in terms of their new approaches towards South Asia, and that has happened especially in the last 1 decade, especially since the 9/11 event in 2001. And here, one has to see that what exactly the world has seen, what expectation the world has from South Asia itself, what expectation the United States has from South Asia. So lots of the current academic discourse, which is revolving around especially on the stability of South Asia, especially because of this ongoing global war on terrorism, and once the US withdrawal takes place completely by 2014, what is going to be happening to the stability of the region? Whether it is going to be highly stabilizing or whether it is going to be destabilizing. So that debate really has been taking place, and in that context, the US certainly feels that this war which they obviously have undergone for more than a decade, it's half won. Just killing Osama bin Laden was not the only reason for launching this global war on terrorism. Their objective mainly was how best they can dismantle the Al-Qaeda network, because that is the, I don't know, the hub of all the terrorist activities. Because the social network, if you do a study on the social network of terrorist group, you will find that a number of terrorist organizations which have been flourishing across the globe have their linkages with the Al-Qaeda. So again, that has not happened, and they have really been showing to the world that they will not be able to sustain themselves in this ongoing global war on terrorism. So they have announced their withdrawal. So that again is a very important question, whether the region is going to be stabilizing or destabilizing. So one has to see that how number of policies they have evolved in terms of seeing India as a very important country, very significant country, because again they found India to be a very consistent country in terms of its economic growth and a very huge market. So they found that huge commercial interest in India, and that is the reason that they really, one can really see that quantum shift in terms of thinking, their strategic thinking towards India. And that really has been able to provide certain positive result. I'm not saying that every time the US policy really has been a great failure. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that especially in the last one decade, the type of policy which they have evolved in terms of dealing with India at a separate level. Still, in fact, one has to know that the State Department doesn't have a separate independent India policy. But to a greater extent, the process by which the things are at least evolving, those have really given some positive result, and all of us are aware that how both India and the US have certain understanding, mutual understanding on the Civil Nuclear Cooperation Agreement, and that really has brought both the countries together. Both the countries have been sharing lots of intelligence information. Both the countries, because of the common security challenges, both the countries have been trying their best to intensify their efforts in the counter-terrorism effort. So all these things really have happened. The other part which the US has been trying its best, which our keynote speaker highlighted, that how this India-Pakistan composite dialogue can really bring some fruit, in fact, desired result. That really one has to see that what are those challenges by which both the countries have not been able to have a successful composite dialogue on the peace process. And in that process, there is certain indication from the United States that they have been really promoting to see how both India and Pakistan can achieve normalcy, and it was reflected also if you see Kargil crisis and how the US played an important role in terms of seeing that the crisis gets averted, and certainly US had certain covert role, if not overt, they had certain covert role in averting the crisis. It was again seen in the later crisis like 2002, and many times the pressure which keeps coming from the US. But to a larger extent, India also confronts with a number of challenges, because the US cannot really see Pakistan dismantling all the terrorist network, and that is one of the very major demand which the India has been making. And that will be in the US interest, because the US certainly would like to see that all the terrorist network gets dismantled. But somehow that is not happening in the current context. The other important part which one can really see, that is in terms of seeing that how the US can evolve certain policy structure which can really be seen as a posture of neutrality. Because on the one hand they were totally annoyed with the Pakistan's way of handling the things, especially as an ally in the ongoing war on terror. On the other hand, the main hero like Osama bin Laden was just staying 1 kilometer away from their army headquarters in Abbottabad. That itself signifies that how much failure the US had in terms of assessing Pakistan's intent and Pakistan's fundamental goals. So still one has to see how the US can really change some of its policies towards Pakistan. The question here is that when you talk about the US policy towards South Asia, one has to really see that what type of policies they have evolved, especially on South Asia. Largely it has been seen in the context of this India and Pakistan. I am not bringing the other countries into my discourse today because of the lack of time. But if you see the US policy towards other countries in South Asia, it is again not to be seen in the context of the changes in the policies. They have been really continuing with their foreign policy towards Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and especially these are in the context of commerce, how best they can boost the commerce, how they can enhance the volume of trade. So all these things they have been doing. So the question which would come to our mind, that what could be the major initiatives taken by the US to make South Asia peaceful and stable? What could be those major initiatives? Because those major initiatives, because US now certainly has assessed its failure in their number of policies towards South Asia, and there they really want to really review. So what could be the suggestions or what could be the recommendations which one can give? As I would like to see from India's perspective, I think they need to act very tough on Pakistan and to see that how sooner they can dismantle all their terrorist network. If possible, they should also freeze all the accounts of the terrorist groups. That again can happen if there is a strong measure taken. Then they require to very carefully assess the implications of the US troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. Because if they are living in a situation where the normalcy has not been restored, and again the question comes that how normalcy in Afghanistan can be restored. Again that part becomes very important. So the onus lies on the US in the current context to really make some sort of an inclusive type of group there where the local Afghans should have a participation, and that would really be in the region's interest. What could be the India's role when there will be a vacuum after the US withdrawal? What could be India's role? Will India's role going to be increased? What role India will have? Because India certainly, whatever India has been doing in terms of building the infrastructure, in terms of seeing that they really become normal and everything is restored in Afghanistan, and India's stakes are quite high in Afghanistan. So what will happen after the US withdrawal in Afghanistan? So that question really lingers around in many of the discourse, and it has been seen that India's role certainly would not be increasing much as whatever India can do now, because it has a number of compulsions, because Pakistan has not been supporting India. Whatever little India has done in Afghanistan is through Central Asia route. So again, those questions will come, that whether India would be able to really increase its role in Afghanistan after the withdrawal of the US troops by 2014. The other major initiative could be where one can see a very stable and peaceful South Asia. That would be to see how best India and the United States can deepen its relationship. When I say deepening again is very relative term, and in that context one has to see that what are those areas where both the countries have to capitalize, try to assess the strength, and see how best both the countries can maximize their interest. And if that happens, then I think some of the issues which really still lingers on in terms of understanding their larger policies, and one example is technological sanctions. See, many of the things keep coming and many of us keep quoting those things, but if you really talk to some of our scientific institutions people, they will give you the real story. Many of these waivers which have taken place, especially with regard to the technological sanctions, are mostly cosmetic. And some of the waivers which are really required for India to really bridge that trust deficit, those are yet to realize. In the sense that the Atomic Energy Department, like Bhabha Atomic Research Center, is still on their entity list. It has not been delisted. IG card. So I am saying that lots of these factors, as a scholar, you have to go and see that what are those areas, because media reports will keep coming and will give you a cosmetic feeling that now US has become very closer. And now US and India, both the countries will really be working together, but there are lots of stumbling blocks which really becomes, I don't know, a major factor in terms of bridging that trust and confidence. So that again, how it can be measured. How you can measure the intensity of the relationship? How can you measure what are those criteria by which you can really highlight, okay, both the countries have been able to achieve certain results. So that again would be very important. Can someone think of certain alternative and see that the trust deficit is eliminated, because that trust deficit still exists. They don't want India to really rise. So all these misnomer which they keep making the statement, because for the first time, India as a global power in the making, that a statement came from the United States. Condi Rice was visiting Delhi and she gave a press interview, and since then all of us have been using that, India is a rising power. So again, how much truth or how much, I don't know, they really mean that? Question is that many of these things are rhetorics, and US is the perfect classic case study to understand how one can be inconsistent in terms of understanding both rhetoric and action. So in the US is a perfect case study that always US has been seen as an inconsistent country in terms of understanding both rhetoric and action. Then other part, very important, what could be the major initiative? And that again, one thought which came to my mind, that both the countries, India and the United States, need to intensify the counter-terrorism effort. Because this counter-terrorism effort certainly has yielded some positive result, but as far as intelligence sharing is concerned, that has not reached to a satisfactory level. See, I am not working with the government, but some interaction which I keep doing with people, still it has to be, because that trust is not there. How can they share information on Pakistan? What is happening to the strategic capabilities of Pakistan? See the recent what happened only 8 days ago. That Kamran base attack by terrorist group, and the Pakistan Taliban acknowledged and they said that look, they are responsible for that attack. So it means that lots of these information which are required from security point of view have to be shared with the countries when they are partnering on this counter-terrorism effort. So intensification of this intelligence sharing is again one of the areas which would be very important. How much intelligence is being shared on Pakistan with India? That is, according to my understanding, is very limited. I don't think that the US has been sharing information on Pakistan with India on a regular basis, or the US is consistent.